to another episode of The Voice of Seven Thunders, a production of the Gospel Trumpet Publishing Company. We are doing a review of the book of Hustlin Backward, written by Apostle Stephen Hargrave. Regressive Progression. This is the story of freedom captured, which is available now for order at realblackexcellence.com, realblackexcellence.com, where you also will find links to download the audio version read by the author himself on both the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. We want to talk about chapters, actually we're going to combine chapters 10 and 11, which deal with hip-hop. And I'm actually excited about this because it's an interesting contribution to dealing with the topic of racism as a form of oppression. Again, acknowledging that there's many forms of oppression in the world, but there's this one here that is unresolved, that continues in its refinement, and that it has not gone away. That's the premise, one of the premises of the book. And why hip-hop, Brother Steph? So let's dig into that, and we could do a whole series on hip-hop, I'm sure.
Sure, we can. And I'm not sure that this needs to be overly lengthy. It could be as lengthy as we need it to be. But the reason for the chapter on hip-hop, well, I thought you were talking about oppression and racism. To me, and we talked about doing this, and I think it's an excellent idea, your idea, there are certain topics that one must reconcile, individual topics that one must reconcile, they're interconnected, that if I'm going to holistically deal with the subject of oppression and racism, all oppression, but if I'm going to deal with racism in this particular instance, I'm going to have to address it from these particular individual subjects or subject matter. So hip-hop is one of those, and the reason why I believe hip-hop is one, because I am of the belief that we are in the hip-hop culture, that the hip-hop culture is the major influencing culture of the world today. And therefore, you can't possibly begin to speak about something that's oppressing the world, racism, or whatever it may be, without dealing with the pervasive culture of the world,
That's
which
right.
I believe to be hip-hop. And so that's the reason why we dealt with that. I think I probably should say here that I have taken the position, and I believe it, that there is quite a difference between hip-hop and rap. Those are two separate things. I don't know that the world makes all those distinctions. I'm sure I'm not the only one that's ever thought that, but I do believe I have a unique way of expressing it that perhaps everyone would not be privy to or wouldn't understand. And I start the chapter, of course, by, I'm looking at it here, I started by the prophet Daniel, chapter 3, verses 1 through 3, talking about the golden image, those that are familiar with the Bible, but there's the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar made as a result of the interpretation of the dream. And moving forward kind of rapidly, Nebuchadnezzar, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, the Babylonian kingdom had taken over the world in essence. He basically was at the top of the world and had fulfilled all of his conquering that he wanted to fulfill, and he was there, he was ruling the world. And his desire was, he wanted to know, okay, what is next? Like, what is next? And he had these boys,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
calling them boys, these young men, these young prophets from Jerusalem, and he understood something about prophecy and understood something about their God. And so he went to get them, and he communed with them and talked with them. And he found, this is earlier, he found that they were 10 times more intelligent
Yes, sir.
and enlightened, more than any of his prophets, of his magicians, or whatever they may have been. So he had a dream, and the interpreters of those dreams were primarily Daniel and the young men that were with him, the young prophets that were with him. And they told him about the dream, and it was, of course, the universal kingdoms, Babylonian, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. And they said that you are the head of gold. Nebuchadnezzar, you're the head of gold in this dream. And they told him about how in his system that he was the head of gold, there was coming a stone cut out of the mountain without hands that was going to destroy this image. This image is not just something that people bow down to, stones. It is that. But it was a false imagery inside of people. People have false images of themselves. False images of things they believe in and they've attached themselves to. And so King Nebuchadnezzar, in rebellion to the dream, he said, I'm going to make an idol that's all of gold. He commanded everyone to bow down to that idol. But it's strange here, and what I bring out in the chapter of hip-hop, it's interesting how he accompanies that commandment to bow down to this idol that he had created with music. And if there is such a thing as bad music, and I believe there is, I think we all do, we would say that the music that was playing in demand that everyone bow down to this false image was bad music. I think we could say that.
Not because the instruments were inherently
Not at
bad, not because the mechanism by which the sound is made,
Not at
the
all.
harmony that's created.
And not at all because the musicians had gifts, which is not from the devil,
which is
by
not from the
way.
devil, that's from the Lord.
It's from God.
That's right.
Okay.
But it was, as you said, it's a connection to what the music was requiring of the people. It was a means. It became a wicked means of an end that was wicked.
That's correct. And so the music was used as something to waft someone into the presence of bowing down to this statue, which was not just a statue. It was representative of a system, a structure, a belief, religion, a mode of life, a culture. And what King Nebuchadnezzar wanted the people to do was to bow down to a culture that was entirely antagonistic and in rebellion to the prophetic culture or the prophetic interpretation of that dream. And I give the contention in the book that what music was played at that point was hip-hop music. And that the culture, the wicked culture, was hip-hop culture back then. Most of who are called hip-hop artists, I believe, and this is my opinion, would not agree with what I just said. I know one that would agree that hip-hop did not just start in the 70s.
That's right.
And that is KRS-One. And I know that not because I know him, and I take some excerpts from some of his albums that are written here. I know that because he makes it very clear. No, hip-hop culture is eternal. He'll tell you all day, hip-hop culture is eternal. It's a culture. We were way back. We're way back in the caves of North Africa when cats were spitting berry. They put berry juice in their mouth and they were spitting it on the wall. It was hieroglyphics. And, okay, so he'll tell you, no, this is our culture. And in defense of him, they call him the teacher. Oh, Chris Park. They call him the teacher. In defense of him, he is accurate. That is the essence of hip-hop. Hip-hop is a culture. And within that culture, out of that culture, springs a music that draws people to and holds them in this culture. So I have the contention that hip-hop music is bad. Always bad.
Yes, sir.
Never good.
That's right.
That's what I write in the book. Never one time is hip-hop music good.
That's right.
Always bad. Now I'm going to pause. I wish somebody was listening.
Now, what's interesting is you didn't say this, but it's at the opening. It says, "Thank you for reading this far. Please follow me close through here."
Yeah.
Right. So before you jump off this video, before you jump off this, if you listen to the audio component of this, before you do that, hear this out.
Yes.
Hear this out because there's some clear distinctions that have to be made. So let me bolster what you said about the fact that hip hop is actually predates the 1970s. This
Absolutely.
modern hip hop that
does.
we're seeing today. So we could find multiple artists who would agree that hip, in the word hip hop, refers to being in the know. It has
Yes.
it's a reference to knowledge. It's a reference to understand. It actually comes from a slang term.
Yes.
You know, you got to be
That's what we
hip.
talk like. Hey, you hip to
You
this?
hip to this.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Of course.
Right? So hip hop in its genre has already given away that a part of its aim is to give
Enlightenment.
enlightenment.
Knowledge. Of course.
Okay? Now, is enlightenment bad?
No. Generally speaking, no.
Generally speaking, no. Was Nebuchadnezzar enlightening his people? Daniel chapter 3.
It was
was.
false enlightenment.
It was a false
Yes.
enlightenment.
But he did take
That
them
was
to
true.
He did take them to another plane of knowledge.
Of knowledge.
He really did. That's true.
And if we take that as a pattern, one of many, right? You just picked one. If we take that as a pattern, then we can see how hip hop has done the same thing.
DJ Kool Herc was not with Nebuchadnezzar.
No.
Okay.
Neither
So-
was Africa Bambaataa.
Africa Bambaataa was not there. So this is way back, and KRS-One is accurate. He's correct about that.
That's right.
And so, but yes, so why we deal with that? Because hip hop is a culture.
That's right.
So now, when you say hip hop music is never good. Now that's what I believe. I think it's good to believe that, and also some people that have already turned me off and counted and taken away my black card, which they can't do. I feel like doing some Paul. I'll be like, "You black? So am I."
So am I.
Okay, but for those of you that would stay tuned in, perhaps you can
Reach
speak-
out and talk to
you can
them
reach out and
on our
say,
behalf.
"No, hold on, listen. He did say that, and that was rough. But here's what they saying. They saying this." Okay, and I would hope that someone would have enough honesty to just listen, especially those that really like hip hop. Or feel looked at like hip hop. So hip hop being a culture, so now we have to determine, is that culture the original culture that is the uplift of all mankind? And if it is, we all need to follow hip hop culture.
That's right.
If it is not the original culture, but if it was born out of rebellion to the original culture, the original prophecy, the original underlying of what God gave through his word, if it is a rebellion to that, then we have to say that it's bad. Okay? Not bad because music is bad, not bad because somebody made a rhyme, not bad because somebody can sing or somebody has talent, not bad for that. Bad because it stands contrary to the manner in which God intended humanity to conduct itself in this world. So, Nebuchadnezzar's, as we know, Nebuchadnezzar's dream, his commanding all nations to bow down, was in fact in rebellion to the prophecy.
That's right.
And because it was, for that reason, how can you say it's bad? For that reason. We say it's bad because it was contrary to the known will of God, contrary to the prophecy, which is contrary to humanity, which is contrary to the manner in which God who created humanity, intended mankind to live. Now we have to give some examples of that. So Nebuchadnezzar, this is back in the Middle East, okay? I'm not suggesting that crack was back in the Middle East.
True.
I am saying drugs. Nebuchadnezzar, them people were getting high.
Yes, sir.
Nebuchadnezzar was getting high. They were getting drunk. They were full of gluttony and debauchery and false gods and piercings and violence and murder and mayhem and trafficking.
Because you got to be that unnatural to go against the prophecy.
Yes. And beastly. I want you to
I
say
know
that again.
you're writing.
Did you say that again? Say it again.
No, I said because you have to be that unnatural to force yourself to work against God.
These things
People are driven.
That's good.
They are driven to fornication. They are driven to adultery. They are driven to drugs. They're driven to alcohol. They're driven to piercings. They are driven to tattoos and everything, and all those things are going to murder
and rape.
It is the
Yes.
Are
product.
you saying that people don't just choose that?
What do you mean?
Those things that you just listed. Are you
individu-
saying that
individuality.
the people didn't? I just chose this.
No, I ain't got
I just wanted to get my tongue
I
pierced.
did not.
I just
I did not
wanted
get
my
no.
nose
I didn't
pierced.
get no tattoo because of whatever. That's me.
No.
Which is exactly what we
So
say.
there's a byproduct. There is a point of rebellion that drives them. There's a point they don't. It's like the scripture said. There's no more I that do it. It's something that's working in me. It's driving me. It's actually this misperception that I've bought into myself. No one threw me there. I myself said, you know what? I don't believe that. So because of that, I'm going to, and I am driven. And and people, again, people have to wake up to the fact that wait a minute. My decision here took me way over here. And it was this. So actually to do that and to have that kind of mind frame, you have to, give me them clothes. I remember one time I was cutting hair in the shop, and there was a young man who came in and he saw, all the different clothes, and I mean, he was dropping money like, for tore up jeans and everything else. He said, I live for this. And I thought,
It's too bad.
that's too bad. But a lot of times people go shopping because they're depressed.
Yes. Yes.
That's why
Yes.
people get tattoos from depression.
That's
Yes.
right.
And
They're oppressed, and
Yes.
so they say, "Look, I got to cut me." You know what I mean? Do this to me.
Yeah, because the distraction of that pain is better than the pain I'm feeling
Yeah.
of emptiness, of lack of direction, of not being connected to my Savior.
Yeah.
And there's somebody right now that knows what we're
talking about.
There's somebody right now that says, yes, I was oppressed, and the expression of my oppression or depression or abuse was that I did cut myself.
That's right.
There are millions of people that fall into that category worldwide.
So let me highlight what you said with Daniel chapter 7. There's a vision that Daniel received. So Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. Daniel had a dream too. He sees a sea, and out of that sea, as acted upon by wind, beasts come out, right? Without giving a complete study, simply sea of humanity, wind of the Holy Ghost. And when the wind hits humanity, if they stay in rebellion, instead of being converted, the only other thing they can do is be driven into a beast. So when we see Nebuchadnezzar forcing people into this false imagery, they become a part of a beastly system. It's called a lion that has wings, and it devours and destroys, right? That's what the scriptures are teaching. So to say that hip hop is old, first of all, is not new. To say that it's old is not new. What we have to then do is help our audience to then see in our day, how is modern day hip hop? And the next chapter, which is, well, what about what's called positive hip hop or good hip hop, or like
Jesus tattoos.
Christian hip hop?
Yes.
Yeah, Christian
And
tattoos.
the contention is, the contention and the doctrine of the book is that there's no such thing. Now, there's no such thing as Christian hip hop, okay? Because hip hop is a culture. It's a worldview. It's full of religions of all kinds.
This is good. This is good.
It's full of religions of all kinds. So
it could be polytheistic?
hip hop is polytheistic. In hip hop, God can be a woman, God can be a man, God can be a woman and a man. God can be several things. God can be a feeling, an emotion. It's a culture, it's a belief system, it's a structure, it's a manner of thought and life. And this is what I'm saying is not Christian. Now, hip hop can take in the name Christian.
Sure.
But it can't be Christian because Christianity denies all gods and says everything is wrong except this one way.
It's interesting.
Everything's wrong except this one prophecy.
There are people who have made Jesus an idol.
Absolutely. And there's
Go figure. They have taken Jesus out of this Bible, and out of that they have created idolatrous worship of that Jesus. That's not this.
Well, the Jesus that I worship allows me to do thus and so. Well, my Jesus, again, back to individuality, back to oppressive comparisons, back to all those things. So it's very important for us to know that hip-hop is a culture. It's a belief system that encompasses religions and ways of life. It's not just things. And so when we come to today, there, of course, was an expression in the 70s of people rhyming and, starting to scratch and do all kinds of things, scratching on records. So certainly there is a beginning of what the world would understand hip-hop to begin. But the book helps us to understand the connection between the culture and the music, which produces the kind of oppression that exists. First, it existed, in the black neighborhoods, of course, and now it's all over the place. The drugs, the alcoholism, the trafficking, all those things. The misogyny, all of those things. The unfiltered and unlawful boasting of what you have. I saw somebody just recently had a $3 million watch. It was if I'm not mistaken, $3 million watch. And the watch came with 24-hour security. Okay. which you had to. And of course, you wear the $3 million watch because you can. I have $3 million. And then, of course, there's somebody in the alleys with a sharp knife waiting to cut your wrist off to get the $3 million. And this shows my value. And this, I just wanted to blame. No, it don't show my value, but you know what I'm saying? I just liked it, whatever. And I'm saying it's a belief system. And I'm saying that system is always intended to divert someone's attention away from the essence, the essential prophecy on which all humanity should stand. That is different than someone rapping.
This is where we got to get to. And I don't know how far we want to go with this, but I was tempted in my mind to think, somebody eventually is going to say, all right, I've come this far, show me. Show me rap. That's not hip hop.
Yes.
And you know what I thought? I thought, no, we're not showing you.
It's just because you can't.
No, that ain't nothing to do with it.
Hear what
that
I'm
ain't
saying.
Nothing to do with it.
Based on what we've already said, because those hip hop artists, many people that are rapping hip hop artists, they're not stupid. They're brightly intelligent, brilliant.
They're gifted from God.
In words.
Yes, brother.
And thought patterns. Brother, you know what I just said. And you know it's a culture, and you know that the things I said are in the culture, and many of the things that you tried to decry in some of the songs that you would call positive hip-hop are the direct result of the culture in which you yourself don't know how to get out of. So, may God bless.
So the words of Christ strike me at this point. And this is why my temptation was, well, don't show him anything. Jesus said, he that had ears to hear.
Yes, brother.
Let him hear.
You know what it is.
And actually, it's kind of prophetic, brother, that you wrote. Thank you for reading this far. Please follow me close through the end.
Yeah,
in other words,
end.
if you've got ears to hear, continue.
Yes.
In other words, let me say something right now. Not everybody's going to like this book. I'll go further.
Of course not. Some people are going to hate it.
Most people are never going to read this book.
That's true.
Let alone like it.
He's trying to hurt my feelings. No, go ahead, brother. But it's true. It's true.
But you're in good company, brother.
No.
You're in good company, brother.
It's
okay?
true. Right.
Most people are not going to do it. And those and the percentage of those who do read it, there's going to be a significant group of people that are going to disagree.
Absolutely.
And you know what? We should take courage knowing that most of the world for the last 2,000 years has not agreed with an even better prophet, with a better message, with a clear doctrine that largely he leaves unexpounded. When Jesus said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan,"
now,
according to the sacred record,
Yeah.
there was zero explanation, and Peter just has to figure out in that instant how to get with it. And brothers, somehow we understand from the text, he does. He doesn't go up the myth tree. He's not offended. He doesn't have a complex. He's not insecure about being Satan or wondering if he's Satan. He just like, oh, Lord, what are we doing next?
Yeah, brother.
And there's a component of some of what we're saying when we say hip hop is a culture, that if you cannot agree with that, then you probably don't want to talk to us anymore.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that.
You don't even want an explanation. And
you don't want this discussion, and that's okay.
You actually have to want to save hip hop.
You
have to have a burning desire.
I want the culture
to
of strip
save
clubs.
it. I want to save it.
I want the culture of drugs. No, that ain't got nothing to do with hip hop. Come on, brother. Come on.
I like these
Where
clothes.
are
I
you
want
from?
this.
Where are you from?
What they're doing, what the burden is, it gets down into the intents of the heart. You want to justify it.
Yes.
Which that will always be.
I actually can understand wanting to justify it if you think that I'm saying, that the book is saying, throw that art form away. Just because
this is the challenge.
Just because someone had they're rhyming together. So what you're saying to me is, I hope they've gotten this far. If not, their friend got to come get them and tell them. If you're saying to me that what is flowing through me, because I believe it's a gift from God, and what they'd be shocked to know is that I'd be like, oh yeah, that's a gift from God.
We would acknowledge that.
Oh, for sure, that's from God. So then why are you attacking my genre? No, I'm attacking hip hop.
Yeah.
That's my genre. No, it's not. No, it is not. Was never intended for
wish
you.
I remember who that
Was
was.
never intended for humanity. You actually are trapped, and your gift is not able to find the fullest measure of expression in something that was designed to abuse.
To say that hip hop is a culture would not be. You're not the first person to say that,
Brother,
by any stretch of the
anybody
imagination.
that knows hip hop says
I forget what it was that I was studying, but somebody said hip hop is like how you hold your hand, like. It's a certain,
That's
like,
right.
you don't do this, you got to do this or this. Or he was saying hip hop is the way we do things.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, that's
He
what
knows
we're
it.
talking about.
Yeah.
And they know it,
And
right? And so it comes with dress. It comes
Yes.
with a way of thinking. It comes with speech patterns. It comes with...
It comes with a car you drive. And I'll tell you something else. It's not simply rap music.
No.
So you don't have to be rhyming. You don't have to be rhyming
So
to have hip-hop music.
to the original statement that hip hop has become the culture of the world.
Yes.
So I'd rather give examples of that than examples of non-hip hop rap.
Yes.
So we can show hip hop. Well, I won't say it here. We can see hip hop in country music.
Absolutely.
We see hip hop in NASCAR.
You see somebody.
We see,
Yeah, brother.
Traditionally non-hip hop
It's in
groups
NASCAR.
of people, right?
Yeah. I see the
sports
graffiti.
uniforms.
in sports uniforms.
I see
we
the
hip-hop.
graffiti
We
art,
see the graffiti.
absolutely. And a country singer walking around. I mean, he got a faux hawk, or you know what I'm saying. He got a South of France with 3 parts in the Z, talking about I'm new to the country, boy. Whatever. I'm like, I see the influence, and I'm not dogging the country, but I'm just saying that influence.
So then, in a presentation you gave some years ago, we go over into East Asia. Actually, you don't have to go east. We just anywhere in Asia, and we see people who have no coarseness of hair, wearing coarse hairstyles.
Yes. About to lose their hair.
In other words, trying to appropriate, and your word, arrogate, something that they don't have. Why? Because they're taking up a culture.
Or a belief, a manner of life.
I'll go so far as to say there's a group that's trying so hard to crack the American economy, and it's called BTS, which is a boy band. It's a K-pop genre. Now, for me looking at it, I'm like, that's just Asian New Edition. That's all that is. That ain't nothing new.
They just try to be New Edition.
With actually taking the science of so New Edition, the genius of New Edition is that it was a grassroots art form. These are people who grew up together that developed into something. Okay, what happened to them we could talk about another episode. But groups like K-pop organizations are coming by and saying, oh, what's the science of that? Actually, Lou Pearlman does the same thing when we get NSYNC and Backstreet Boys and all of that, and Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, which are hip-hop.
Those are hip-hop artists. For sure.
Right?
For sure.
Okay, so when we talk about racism,
They're not hip-hop, they're pop. Well, you got to read the book. It's hip-hop.
it's hip-hop.
Pop is a diversion. It's like a generic. What's pop mean? Popular.
Popular.
Well, hip-hop culture is popular.
It's popular. That's right.
So
So we take these young people who are not from the same communities where hip hop was originally started. They arrogate those things to their community in order to gain a wide acceptance and really to make a lot of money. A lot of money, because it was the culture that began to be pervasive. In other words, the only reason that it has become what it is because that culture spread and there was a lodging place in the hearts of people to respond. So let's go back to Daniel chapter 3. The reason that the 3 brethren don't bow is because they're not Babylonian in their culture.
That's right.
Even though they live in Babylon.
That's right.
They actually serve the Babylonian king. But they refuse to be a part of Babylon's culture.
So yes, so it's not a matter of saying, well, I'm not going to bow down to this idol. It's more appropriately thought of as I will not allow my heart, my mind, my soul, my body to be assimilated into this culture that is contrary to the prophecy that I know. So in that regard, and the music, I would think that the music probably sounded good.
I would think. I would think.
I don't think it was just no people out there just shucking and jiving doing whatever. I mean, they were doing their thing. These people were doing their thing.
He said, "Shuck and jive."
I'm just saying they were doing their thing. So these brothers are like, look, I recognize what's happening here, and I just like I refuse to take that food.
That's right.
I will not allow myself to be appropriated into this culture of wickedness.
That's right.
It doesn't mean they don't like music. So when we say that, it doesn't mean that we don't understand, oh, that rhyme was tight, though. It might have been. Like, there are people that are very talented, but I will not bow to the culture.
That's right.
And that talent, that rhyming talent, that poetic talent, is misplaced in that culture.
That's right.
Because this Bible is full of poetry.
That's right.
Full of songs, full of instrumental
That's right.
expression.
That's right.
So we're saying
Full of dancing.
Oh, it's full of dancing. Clap your hands, shouting.
Actually, the issue is this is a culture.
That's exactly correct.
This is a culture.
The prophecy,
it's a prophetic culture.
Yes.
And the problem with hip hop is that it's antithetical to this prophecy, even if they take it and they simply label Christianity over the top of it.
That's right.
If Christianity, which is foundational to the Christian religion, Christianity comes in and conquers or has nothing to do with it at all. Either Christianity is everything or it's not at all.
That's right.
And it can't ever mix.
That's right.
Right? And that's central, and that's a part of why we can look at hip hop and say we can acknowledge, like the Hebrew children who work in Babylon, they are part of the monarchy. Think about that. They work for the king, who has their own people in bondage. How do they navigate that? Where they see through the prophecy that God had given them, yeah, we're ready to die. We'll die for this. This is a. And they didn't know they said, King, we're not careful to answer you. Whether God wants to deliver us or not, one thing we won't do. We won't violate this prophetic understanding that God has given us. So go ahead, throw us in the fire. That's not a problem.
Right. It is very good. And one thing I do want to say too, people, when we start talking like this, people tend to think, well, you're taking everything away from us. What we're saying is that we are not the ones that are taking anything.
No.
That this culture has appropriated something that actually
belongs to God. That's right.
That gifting is pure. I'm not telling you that God didn't gift you to rap, but rapping is pure. Rapping can happen in a culture, true rap, can happen in a culture that is based on the prophecy that brings humanity together in truth. There's only one way to bring humanity together too, and that is on the prophecy. It's not just some arbitrary, let's come together, let's be nice to one another, you serve your God, I serve mine. That alone is hip-hop culture. But what we're trying to say in this book is that these things have been appropriated by a system that's abusive. One thing I'll say, we'll get into this too. I'll say one more thing. People always say regarding homosexuality, well, Christianity is mean. Your God told everybody to kill everybody. And that ain't a God of love. He killed homosexuals back then. And you know what? That's just like the devil. He flipped the script on everything.
Yes, sir.
The devil is, the homosexual spirit is what kills.
That's right.
Bow down to this or I'm going to kill you.
That's right.
So it's not a matter, and then flip and say, well, God told him to kill everybody. Let me tell you something. God said eliminate them because that spirit is coming to kill you.
That's right.
So it's just like, it's the same thing. So hip hop culture takes things and flips it and arrogates it to itself when really it's not.
We actually see that we actually see that spirit working in a modern sense with an agenda that is extremely aggressive.
Yes.
As opposed to, we have said clearly, we don't believe in the oppression of anybody.
Not at all.
And somebody that is a homosexual, which we believe is not according to the scriptures, that doesn't give us the right to oppress them
as a person,
as a human being. As a matter of fact, in Adam, that's our brother.
That's right.
And they are our family.
If we would oppress them, that is contrary to our belief. You can't even be a Christian and oppress them.
That's right.
No. And so when we have actually the opposite from that community that's trying currently through legislation to try to oppress our belief system. That's a murderous spirit.
That's exactly correct.
That is not actually what the Christians are doing. So they're attacking something that is not. And so that spirit is still very much alive.
The spirit is bowed down. You will be a part
So back
of
to
this.
hip hop, it's the same thing. The devil wants to make it look like that it's the Christian that's fighting against when we say that there is no such thing as good hip hop. And what you're saying in the book is that hip hop is a part of the problem that leaves us divided from being able to say, let's come to the table and deal with the gift of rap. And the ability for it to help humanity and to bring us together and to clear up the oppression and to clear up the confusion and to elucidate the prophecy. I want to tell you, if we could get some of these hip hop artists to truly convert to Christianity, maintain their gifting, we could just go ahead and give up our seats and continue to do our work as apostles and let them do this.
Yes, oh brother.
And be able to much better, I would say in some ways, to bring out some of these truths through the gift that God has given them, to take words and apply them and to manipulate them to bring out certain truths.
Brother, it's exactly correct. And so hip-hop as a culture is bad.
In particular, with regard to your book. So tie that here as we kind of close.
Yes.
Tie why it's bad. It has to be in this book about racism and oppression.
Very good. Has to be in the book because, again, hip-hop culture is the pervasive culture of the world, in my understanding, in my view.
Point one.
As well as it is the means of the things that are happening within the culture, within the hip-hop culture, are perpetuating the very oppression that this book is saying we need deliverance from. Okay, so why is the hip-hop culture bad? Because from that culture comes all oppression, not just racism.
That's right.
Comes the trafficking, comes the drugs, comes the et cetera, all the things we mentioned. And those things spring from a systematic culture, and that culture I'm calling hip-hop, which does provide knowledge, but it's the knowledge of the serpent. Let me tell you what the knowledge is. God knows that you'll be like gods, and this you'll be enlightened, and you'll understand this. And it's the same thing that the serpent has always said, and this culture is contrary to the prophecy, and thus is the means from which all oppression springs.
Very good. Brother, I saw you were writing. You got something good down there, brother, before we close this out?
He does.
Brother, this is.
Yeah, say it. What you got?
I didn't write it.
People have individual false. Read that.
People. Oh.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna make him read it no matter what.
But it don't go with this, so.
It does. It matches the book. All of it's linked together.
Yeah, it does. But people got to be able to digest it. You know what I mean? Like you start,
Well,
like trying to sip out of a fire hose. You can't.
No, brother, believe it or not, we're giving them digestible bites. But if you follow this far, I mean, you either think we're crazy or you're trying to figure out what's happening.
Oh, I hope you figured out what's happening.
All right, so this has been another episode of Voice of the Seven Thunders. We're covering the book Hustlin Backwards, which Brother Stephen Hargrave wrote. He's also done the audio reading, which you can get by going to realblackexcellence.com, where you can find the links for the audio version of this book on Google Play and the Apple App Store. You can buy the book. Book is $28. Audio is also $28, so $56 total. And we encourage you to buy that. Thank you so much for listening. May the Lord bless you.